One day, Gordon the big engine was resting on a siding. He felt tired after pulling the express and was eager to complain about it. "I get so out of breath," he said to no one in particular, "but no one cares. They just say I'll be all right after a rest." Thomas had been shunting nearby and had heard everything. "Oh well, if being a tender engine is too hard for you, Gordon, why not ask Sir Topham Hatt to get you tanks and a bunker?" he asked cheekily. "We tank engines never get out of breath, you know." It was lucky for Thomas that poor Gordon hadn't the energy to reply. Gordon felt unwell for the rest of the day. He groaned loudly in the sheds, annoying the other engines. "This won't do at all," said Sir Topham Hatt, and he called for an inspector. He soon arrived and looked all over Gordon. "He needs new tubes," he said to Sir Topham Hatt. "He'll have to go to the works to have them fitted." Edward took Gordon to the works, and Henry pulled the express in his place. "Look at me now! Look at me now!" laughed Henry proudly as he whooshed past the shunting yard, blowing steam at Thomas, Percy and Duck. "Silly big engines," grumbled Percy, "always thinking they're all that just because they pulled the express." "I bet we could pull it much better than they could," agreed Thomas firmly. Duck just rolled his eyes and continued shunting. Henry's mood soon changed as when the day before Gordon was due back, he felt unwell. "Come on, Henry, the express is due out," said his driver. Henry coughed weakly. "I can't. I feel ill." Henry's driver told Sir Topham Hatt, who was not happy to hear the news. "Bother! There's no spare engine except Thomas, and he certainly can't pull it on his own." "Could Percy help?" suggested Henry's driver. Sir Topham Hatt sighed. "The two of them can't manage, but perhaps if Doc helped." "Yes, and a spare engine should surely be at the works. I'll make the arrangements at once." With that, Sir Topham Hatt hurried into his office. Thomas, Percy and Duck were all called away from their work and back down onto their train. Thomas nearest the train, Duck in the middle, and proud Percy at the front. "I don't see how we'll do it," said Duck doubtfully. "Who ever heard of tank engines pulling the express?" "Don't be defeatist, Duck. This is a chance for us tank engines to prove ourselves to those stuck-up big engines," smirked Thomas. "Now come on." He bumped into the back of Duck and Percy, who each glared back as they slowly started. "Come on, come on," fussed Percy importantly. "We're doing it," said Duck in surprise. "We're doing it!" "I told you," Thomas grunted. "Now pull harder." Slowly but surely, the heavy coaches drew out of the platform and out onto the open line. The three couldn't go as fast as Gordon, but the passengers didn't mind. They knew the tank engines were doing their best. A station approached in the distance. "Oh, thank goodness," panted Percy. "We can stop." "What? Percy, expresses aren't like branch line trains," said Duck. "We don't stop at those stations." But that means we can't get our breath back," Percy gasped. "I'm already feeling tired." "Well, I'm not," huffed Thomas, even though he was. They kept their speed until they reached Edward Station, where even Thomas admitted they needed a banker. "Where's Edward? Or Donald and Douglas?" asked Thomas. "All our way helping with the work we've left behind," replied his driver. "Sorry, you three. We'll just have to do it on our own." Thomas groaned, and the three engines tried gaining speed as they approached the hill. They were halfway up it when I can't do it! Shouted Percy, blowing his whistle. The train came to a stop, and Thomas's driver, ignoring his grumbling engine, went to the front of the train. The hill must have been too much for you, the driver said. We can't take you off, Percy, but do your best to keep your brakes off, and Thomas and Duck should be able to continue. It's not far now. I doubt we'll make it, muttered Duck. Thomas didn't want to admit it, but he had a feeling Duck was right. Percy not helping made things harder for the other two, but they still struggled on, twin columns of steam shooting high into the air. We're nearly there! We're nearly there! Thomas and Duck chanted together. Poor Percy was too exhausted to say anything. Thomas and Duck summoned all of their strength and pressed on past the works. But suddenly, Duck started slowing down. What's going on? Demanded Thomas. We can't go any further! Wailed Duck. And he didn't. Thomas, in a last effort, tried hauling the heavy train on his own, but he just couldn't manage. The cavalcade came to a standstill a few yards off the station platform. You were right all along, Duck, Thomas sighed before gasping as on the work siding stood a surprised Gordon. Sir Topham Hatt had been on the train and was very impressed. I'm proud of all three of you. You did very well to get so far, and now you deserve a rest. The tank engines were uncoupled, and gratefully, Thomas, Percy and Duck slowly moved to the points. I'm never pulling an express again, Percy panted. I'd say we did worse than Gordon, Duck quipped. Thomas just grunted in dismay. Derek took their place and honked his horn in admiration as he rolled away. Gordon smirked at Thomas, took 3 deep breaths and winked. Gordon didn't need to say anything. Thomas knew exactly what he meant.